Hey there, boys and girls. It's Ralph Garman, and you're listening to Talking Codswallop. Good choice.
Hello, everybody. This is Ming Chen from AMC's Comic Book Man. You might know me from the Tell 'em Steve Dave podcast and the I Sell Comics podcast. Listen, I love podcasting. I love talking, but what I really love doing is talking Codswallop.
Hey, I'm Alicia Witt.
I'm Daniel Portman from Game of Thrones. I play Podrick Payne.
I'm Ellipses, and you're listening to the Talking... Okay, I'm Mark Bernard, and you're listening to the Talking Codswallop podcast.
Hey man, it's Kevin Smith, Silent Bob, whose voice you were never used to hearing in the 90s until I started opening it up, man. And that's because I'm a podcaster and you're listening to a podcast, Talking Codswallop, right here, man.
Welcome to this week's Talking Codswallop. I am Gemma. With me today, I have got a fantastic singer, and she's in a band called Ingloria. And I found out about, I found out about her via a mutual friend, or a friend in real life for me, but a virtual friend for her, which is the Dr. Squee from the Dr. Squee show, who was on last week. And I just heard her tracks and I wanted to get her onto the show. So please welcome to the show, Galena Rin from Ingloria.
Hello, how you doing?
Hello. Oh, you're buzzing. You're buzzing again. Why are you buzzing?
Right, so this is not my studio mic. I didn't do anything to change anything. I don't know what went on there. Is this better?
Yeah, actually, you're coming through even clearer now. So,
all right, well, I'll just do that. Well, that's not my studio mic anymore. That's just the MacBook.
Oh, I heard that. Pardon you.
It was the chair. It was the chair.
I might have to leave that bit in if that's all right, just as the joke.
Yeah, it's fine. I bought this chair off a performer, and they said they'd spent like 60 quid on it, and it wasn't suitable for them, so they were selling off cheap.
Yeah.
And then I got it, I picked it up. And then by the time you've gone all the way to their house and you've kind of like knocked on their door and given them some money, and you see the chair and you're like, oh, this chair's a piece of crap. You're just like, I have to take it off their hands. Don't you? You're not going to stand there and go, oh, this is crap. So I've got this crap chair that makes a lot of noise, but once you get settled into it, it's all right. It's all right. I needed a small chair anyway, for my little tiny studio. So it's just noisy, that's all.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. We can live with a bit of creaky chair. It's all good.
Chair.
It creates a little bit of ambiance, doesn't it?
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. And I've got one of my windows open because I'm feeling a bit warm. So, there might be background noise on my side as well. So it's, it's like a little game for the listeners. That's all.
Yeah. Why not?
Exactly. So obviously welcome to the show. I know, we've done the little welcome there, but it's a real honor to have you on. And I've been listening to you singing for the last couple of weeks because they're obviously preparing for this recording. So yeah, you're putting me to shame. I love singing. I can't sing nearly as good as you, but our listeners are called salty tadpoles because it's inappropriate.
Nice,
yeah. And so I quite often sing on the show or whatever, but yeah, nowhere near as good. So I just wondered, if you could sort of tell us where it all began for you.
I've always wanted to be in a band. I think I started, my parents, my mum was a folk singer. Let's just start there. Let's just start at the beginning, shall we?
Yeah.
My mum was a folk singer. Not anything big, but just did it for fun. And I have an aunt and uncle who are folk singers in Edinburgh. And my dad used to be a drummer. And his band supported Jimi Hendrix when he played Belfast.
Amazing.
way back when.
Yeah.
So I guess there's a little bit of music in the family, but nobody's like it was always just a hobby for everybody.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of singing, folk stuff, and when we were kids and all that kind of stuff. So I learned to play guitar reasonably young, at 9 years old, and then I foolishly gave it up to play netball because nobody I knew played guitar, and everyone I knew played netball. So I foolishly started playing netball. And then didn't take up the guitar again until the end of high school. And then I didn't really take it seriously. You know, I wanted to play and sing, and I've always been more of a singer, I guess, than like anything technical or you know, guitarist or anything. So I just wanted to sing, but never found a group of people to sing with. So I've just been kind of starting my own bands. I also have no real belief in my own musical ability, so I don't really like to jam with people.
Yeah.
You know, I also find it very difficult to sing in a small room with a few people. Like, I find it very embarrassing to sing in a room in front of, you know, I couldn't sing at a party or something if there was only like 3 people, a dinner party or something. I couldn't do that. But if there was a full room of drunk people, then I could probably do that. All right.
Yeah.
You know, the more stage-like it becomes, the easier it is for me to perform.
I suppose as well that you can't see the people's faces as well if there's more people there, because they all blur into one, don't they?
Yeah, you don't have to look anyone in the eye. I guess if I have to look people in the eye, it gets a bit weird, I suppose. So then I did all, you know, you're told as a kid musician and being in a band is not a job. It's not a job.
Yeah.
It's not a career, is it? Is it? So I basically started off doing all my career things around being in a band. So, you know, I did stage management and event management, and I backline teched for bands, and I did my degree in live production, music business, live production and stuff like that. And I've just worked around bands or in the environment of bands forever. And then I decided I wanted to be in the band, and I went to looking for musicians when I moved to London, and I've been through 5 bass players and 12 drummers, and for one reason or another it just didn't happen for me, so I just decided to do it alone. So I just designed everything to be done alone. I toured for 4 years alone, which is me. I sound like a full rock band on stage, but it's just me and a projector screen and my guitar. And then on this album that we've just released, I brought in some session guys to come and help, and I've got a songwriting partner who helped out on a couple of tracks on this new album. And now I'm just kind of in the position of, do I, you know, really push to have a full band and then have to rely on other people's timescales and other people's commitments and stuff like that, or do I just push ahead as myself, you know, and just, because then I'm responsible for my own time and my own diary as such, you know. It's difficult because, like, I always wanted to be in a band. I always want a drummer and a bass player, and I want to tour as a live band. But, you know, is it really is it viable financially to do that when I could just tour on my own, maybe hire like a sound engineer or something to come out with me so I'm not completely alone, but then that sound engineer could change. I don't need to have the same sound engineer all the time. If, you know, our timetables didn't. You basically find me on a very contemplative day. I've been thinking about this all day. I'm like, have I wasted my life not being in a band just because other people said being in a band was not a job?
I don't know, because I can definitely see it from your point of view, because like you said, you haven't got to worry about anybody else's schedule or time if you're just doing it on your own. There's the other side of it as well from a monetary point of view, that all proceeds go to yourself. You know, obviously, you know, in this case, you've, with the latest album, you've had involvement with a drummer and a bass player. So I assume obviously they'll get a cut or whatever, but you know, it's, you know, it is a tricky situation, but whatever you're doing right. So, you know, you'll make the right decision.
Yeah,
so.
I think if you could have 3 people all working together for the common cause of the business side, then I think it would probably be viable. But the fact that, you know, other people perhaps aren't giving 100%, because the people have other lives. I'm not saying they don't, I don't have kids, I purposely have created my life so I can do whatever I want musically. And, other people have other bands, like drummers always have other bands. Like you never have, it's always other bands.
Yeah.
And then, my bass player has 2 kids, so like, I can't expect people to be like, oh yeah, 100% this. Oh yeah. The way I am.
Yeah, because like little Timmy or whatever could, obviously I don't know the children's names, but, could develop a cold or a sickness bug and, and yeah, I know what you mean because obviously with children, they get bugs all the time. So I also haven't got children. So, you can tell from that I really, I don't really care, but I do care. Sorry, that's awful. I don't
care either. No, I don't care either.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I just want to, I'm at the stage where I've done all these jobs in the past and I've done them all, like a lot of people, like when I was a kid, I hung out with nothing but musicians. Like when I was in my teens, early 20s, everybody I knew were musicians. My boyfriends were in bands, all this stuff, and out of all of those guys, I think I have 2 of those friends who are in a band now, a successful band now. Out of all of the people I knew back then, 2 people are in a successful band, and actually they're both in the same successful band.
Okay.
So it's like people, if you do bands early, then most people get sick of it and move on. Whereas I've done it the opposite way around. I've I'm not saying I've made my money. That's not true. I've made 0 money in my crap jobs. But now I know that I want to do music the rest of my life. I want to retire doing music or the creative Death and Gloria, which isn't just music, it's comics and animation and all sorts of stuff.
Yes.
And that's just where I am. So I'm just kind of a crossroads now. It's like, do we have a band? Do I not? Do I just do it myself? I probably will. I think I'll just make the decision now. I'll just do it myself. And when I get a gig that warrants having the band out with me, then we'll get the band in.
Yeah, worry about that when it sort of comes. But I think that's probably a good idea, to be honest. Go out on your own, see if you can do it on your own. If not, then you can see about getting a band at the other date.
Yeah, I know I can do it on my own. I've done it for the last 4 years on my own.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I've toured in 2019. I toured the UK and Ireland for a month in August, and I played Boomtown Fair, which is a big festival, Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and the World Sci-Fi Convention in Dublin.
Oh.
And then a bunch of little shows around, in between all of that. So I do it alone. I have done it alone.
Yeah.
I've got everything set up to do it alone. I should just continue, to be honest.
Yes, I think so. Right, that's it. Made the decision. Right, we don't need to carry on with the podcast. 12 minutes in, we've solved your problems.
Done. World put to rights right there. There you go.
Yeah, thank God for that. Right, it's been lovely having you on.
We haven't even discussed what the band is. I just literally just opened up into an existential crisis of myself there, So I'm sorry about that.
No, absolutely not. No, this podcast is called Talking Codswallop for a reason. So you've just you've had your first experience of what the real show's like. So that's good.
Nice.
Exactly. So in that case, then maybe we should find out. Well, first of all, where did the name Death and Gloria come from, and what is it as well? Because obviously, you touched upon other things. Yeah.
So basically, it's a concept band. So some bands, they just do the songs that come to them, and the whole band itself doesn't relate. I mean, albums might relate to each other or whatever, but there's an outstanding concept for Death and Gloria, and that is essentially that I am telling the inglorious ways in which humanity can wipe itself out.
Okay.
So that's where Death and Gloria comes from, because in a lot of languages, world languages, the parts of sentences are turned round. So in theory, it should be inglorious death of humanity, but I've changed it because it sounds a little better in Latin. Death and Gloria.
Yeah.
So that's where the name comes from.
It sounds a little bit more metal as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the name probably sounds a lot more metal than the music is. I think, but that's fine too. So, so I tell sci-fi stories about the end of humanity, and each album is its own sci-fi story from start to finish. So we don't really carry on any characters or storyline between albums. Each album is probably going to be a mini album. I don't really think anyone needs a full 14-song album for one of my stories at this point. So we'll probably just keep with mini albums. Our first album was 7 songs and the second album is 5 songs.
Yep.
But the comic book has got bigger on the second album. So it comes with a comic book. I animate those comic books into the music videos. So if you get a comic book, you can scan the QR code and that page comes to life on your phone and you can listen to the music and you can see the animation that cool. I probably learned to do 5 seconds before that video was released, to be fair.
Yeah. But you still learned it, so that's the main thing.
Well, that's it, isn't it? So every story ends with the humanity dying out completely. There isn't anyone left alive. We're completely wiped out, and it's usually it's always going to be humanity's fault because while we explore like different crazy ways in which humanity can bring itself to an end, but sometimes there are outside influences that maybe aren't there to destroy us, but we perceive them to be there to destroy us, so we destroy ourselves most of the time. Yeah.
Well, it's basically a prediction of what's going to happen in the future then, in both your albums.
So on the first album, I which was released in 2017, I destroyed humanity with a miseries virus, which was a purposely designed virus that was allowed out onto the population, and it made everyone very, very sad to the point that they killed themselves and everyone around them. So I don't know if you ever remember that game Lemmings.
I've heard of it, but I never played it myself, so...
Oh, okay. Well, there's a little lemming that's a suicide lemming, and it will blow itself up and take some lemmings with it. Or, maybe if anyone out there watched Red Dwarf and the Suicide Squid, that's exactly where I got the idea from, is Red Dwarf's Suicide Squid episode. And the Inquisitor, I think, is also a little bit of it as well. But, so in the first album, humanity gets destroyed by a miseries virus, or at least the perception of it. And then, so I hope I can't read the future, because that kind of almost happened, didn't it?
It did, sort of, yeah.
Sort of, yeah. And then this new album is about a guy, he works in an office and he's very much disconnected from humanity, and through a series of minor admin errors, he accidentally destroys the world by letting off all the nuclear warheads.
Yes. Yeah, I have kind of grasped that from the, from the songs and from the title. But I think also, the album is based about my life as well, because that is the kind of job that I do. So not actually with nuclear weapons, but, I'm an administrator.
Oh, yeah. So one of my jobs was working as a civil servant for 10 years, because I under the misguided thought that I needed if I worked a full-time job, I could afford to gig at the weekends, and that just didn't work out for me either. So I worked managing the diaries of judges and magistrates in family courts in London for 10 years, and got managed a couple of departments, and I've taken characters out of that, and I've taken admin errors straight out of that job and put them into this story.
And exploded it a little bit further, sort of thing. Of course,
yeah. You have to expand it all. You have to magnify it through science fiction, don't you? And then just make it a bigger story. And I think the working title of this album was Death by Admin. And then when I told people my next album, the working title is Death by Admin, and they were like, "Oh, well, that sounds like a great title." So I just kept it.
Yeah.
So I think going forward, everything will be Death Ingloria 2, 3, 4, 5, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it sounds good. Or Death by Admin again.
No, we have to kill them with other things. So the number 3 is Death by Art. But we won't go into that just yet. But it is in development already. We're going to develop the story, a bigger comic book. Try and get to like graphic novels and stuff like that.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. So, are you the person who does all the artwork then?
No. There's a lot of I do a lot of this stuff myself, but I cannot draw. Okay. So no. So there's a really amazing artist called Sylvia Fear, and she's Brazilian, and she's awesome, and she's the one who draws the second comic. The first comic was drawn by Nigel Dobbin, who was the official Sonic the Hedgehog comic illustrator, and he did a lot of stuff with Doctor Who, and he did 2000 AD and Judge Dredd and just everything. But he unfortunately died of a heart attack while drawing the second comic.
Well, I mean, that's a bit inconsiderate, isn't it? Obviously, that's a joke. Sorry.
I'm not going to comment on that. But yes, let's move forward from there.
Obviously, I didn't mean that really. So, yeah.
So the reason the comics came about in the first place is because I knew I was going to be on alone. I mean, being a solo performer, I needed something on stage with me. So I thought I'll have to project something. So what will I project? Well, I could just get stock footage or whatever and make little films. That would be kind of crap. So I thought we'll do animation because that'll be easy, won't it? Animation's easy and cheap. I was wrong about that. It's neither cheap nor easy. And then because my mum used to write for 2000 AD in the late 80s, and Nigel was her illustrator when she wrote for the magazine that has Judge Dredd in it.
Yep.
So we got them back together again, and I wrote the story, and my mum helped me write the script. Because writing a script is an artwork in itself. It's a skill in itself, I should say. And then that gets translated by the artist. And if you allow all these people to have a little bit of input, like the story gets really evolved.
Yes. Yeah.
So when Nigel died, I was basically looking for someone who could draw like Nigel. And we're talking about someone who has 40 years of comic illustration experience. And
absolutely.
How do you find someone who can match that? And I auditioned a bunch of illustrators, and Sylvia was actually the only person who did any of the work.
Oh, okay.
I think I must have gone through 30 or 40 illustrator auditions. And she was the only one who did the brief on time. To any standard. I mean, no one was even close to her. And it's not the same illustration as the first comic, but it's very close. It's very close.
Yeah.
Very close.
I suppose in a way they're always going to have their own sort of input, of their own character. But yeah, firstly, it's awful, that nobody actually did the brief and nobody sent it back in time apart from one person. But I suppose in a way it made life easier for you that you could actually you knew which one you were going to pick.
Yeah. And the really great thing about the thing when you use freelancers, it's, I think is communication. A lot of time people don't communicate very well, and that to me will cost them a job the second they don't answer something in a timely manner. I'm not saying you have to answer stuff right away. I'm not crazy. I'm demanding, but I'm not crazy. But, I do expect, something back from people in 2 or 3 days. Just acknowledge, I think it's because in the civil service, you have to acknowledge every email.
Yes.
You don't leave an email not with okay, I've received this, I'll come back to you. But in freelancer world, they've never been taught that it's actually really rude to leave people hanging, I think. So... And folks are busy, so.
Yeah, exactly. I know, like I said earlier, with the admin background and stuff like that, I know that, with regards to telephone, you need to kind of pick it up after 3 to 5 rings at the very most, kind of thing. Or, you need to respond to emails just to confirm that you've received the order, because I'm an order processor. Okay. So received the order, or, somebody's looking into their inquiry or whatever, So I definitely get that. And it does irritate me that some of my colleagues don't do it. And I'm like,
yeah. So when I've worked with anybody at all, if they're not good at communication, I can't work with them because I get so anxious and I get so stressed in my own head. I always think people hate me for some reason. I'm always like, oh, it's kind of like the fear of being dumped.
Yeah.
But it comes with it's not a romantic relationship. It's just like, this person doesn't want to work with me anymore. So I personally cannot work with people who can't answer things quickly. So I just move on. I just stop. I just not dump that person because they dumped me, but just have to move on. And then sometimes they come back like 2 weeks later going, oh yeah, I do want this job. And I'm like, you're too late. I'm sorry. I can't wait for 2 weeks for you to say whether you want the job or not. I mean, I'm paying you. It's weird. It's a weird one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. If they want the job that badly, they need to jump on board and actually get their ass into gear, don't they?
Yeah. So the freelancers I work with now are all great. Their communication's fantastic. Both my illustrator and my mix and master engineer, who's Jamie King, who is in America, and he is the producer for a band called Between the Buried and Me. And his communication's amazing. Like, he's a world-renowned producer, and he's still able to answer an email within whatever, a short period of time. So, so it's good. So I have a little team, my bass player, my drummer, and we have an old friend of mine, a long-time friend of mine, I should say. She's not old. Maybe she is. She's the same age as me. And she's our manager, and she helps with all the admin and the massive amount of admin. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, that is great. And also, you still working with your mum with regards to the comics, like writing them, or?
Yeah, so my mum does the scripts when I've written the comics. So
okay.
She's done these two, and I think I'm actually going to work with another writer to create the story because the next number 3 is going to be quite large. So I'm working with another writer because I think we're going to try and do like a mini novel or something like that, and then my mum will get involved again when we script it for the comic. So she doesn't get involved until quite late on in the process, in the story process. I should say.
Yeah. But that's, that's obviously amazing that you get to work with your mum, because that's, creating memories and stuff. Sorry, I've got a plane not a plane, a helicopter going across at the moment.
Sorry, I can barely hear it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right then. Hopefully it's not being picked up on. But no, it's really nice to, be able to sort of work with your mum, create sort of family memories that way as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's a really weird one because, like, my parents were big sci-fi people when I was a kid, and our house was always filled with comic books and all sorts of stuff. And I think when I was a kid, I just didn't appreciate it. And my mum used to talk on Comic-Con panels, and I would go with her when I was a very small child and just hang out in the panel rooms. And, I just didn't appreciate it at all. And then, you run away, like my parents are still in Northern Ireland, and I ran away to London, and then only like years later, I'm coming back to my mum going, can we just start doing sci-fi comics now?
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, you don't appreciate it when you're in the middle of it all, and then you have to run away from it to come back to it. And I'm really happy that my mum and I have projects that we can work on together, and because otherwise it'd be very two separate lives, really. We went up to hang out with her up in Scotland in August, like 2 weeks ago. So we were only just back from hanging out, from going up and visiting her. So it's nice. It's really nice, especially when you get older, to be able to go back and do stuff with your parents that you never thought you were going to do. Most people would I'm not doing anything business with my parents. Who'd do that? Never work with your family, but it's actually nice because my mom's got skills that I don't have and that I need, and I've got skills that she doesn't have that we need for this project. So it's a good balance. It's really nice to work. It's fun to work with each other as well.
Yeah. Oh, that is honestly, that is really, really nice. It's so, I really just think it is lovely if, two generations of the same family, can kind of, or more, of course, can get together and work on a project, even if it's just a couple of times,
That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah. So you're London based right now then, are you?
Yeah. I've actually, this September, I will have been in England as long as I lived in Northern Ireland. So does that mean I'm not Northern Irish anymore? I don't know.
I don't know, because if we lived in America, you would be Irish, English, American, wouldn't you? So
I wouldn't be English, love. Let's just get that straight. I wouldn't be English.
All right then.
because I'm a Londoner, so therefore you don't really. I don't think many Londoners count themselves as English unless they're English. Of course, you could be London English, but I'd be London Irish, wouldn't I? So
you would be. So in that case, then I apologise. You can be London Irish. Or Irish London, whichever you prefer.
I think just Londoner. Maybe I'm just crazy, but when anybody puts any defining thing in front of them that makes them different to everyone else, I'd never say that I would just consider myself British, I guess. I wouldn't say I was like Northern Irish British or something, because the more labels you put in, the less we're connected together. So I guess we're just British, aren't we? Where does British love? That's it.
Yeah. Well, I'm British. I can't say I've got a lisp, but it's really handy. I'm British too, so it's because I'm half Welsh, half English, so it's kind of But yeah, I mean, you are right. Why put a label on things? There's enough labels in the world, isn't there? Bean can and.
Bean can.
Well, I just thought, I'd use a random label.
Okay, yeah, nice. I do like Heinz baked beans, I have to say.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of other beans. Like, I don't like cheap store beans.
No, I'm not a fan either. And also I'm diabetic as well. So, but the only exception to that is that, with regards to, obviously there's the reduced sugar Heinz beans. And I love the fact that I've changed the subject to beans now. But, and just quickly, the reduced sugar ones, they're absolutely gross. Don't do it. Just, have normal.
But I don't, the thing is with my beans, it's not the sugar that I'm worried about, it's the salt.
Yeah.
There's a lot of salt in beans. I suppose there's a lot of sugar too. I don't actually mind the no sugar beans. I mean, I have them here too. I'm not against them. I'm not against them. I'm not against a sugarless bean. As long as it's a Heinz bean, I'm fine. I'm sure other beans are other beans are available.
Yeah.
So they're just not as good.
Well, I told you this episode could get random, so
That's good.
Well, as we're talking about labels and we're talking about beans, I noticed on your Facebook page that you have joined up with a hot sauce company.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So Rockadoodle Do Belfast is a company run by a friend of mine, and I've known him for years. So I have. And he he's a big fan of the band. I did a house concert on that. I told you I was touring in 2019 for a month, and I did a house concert, and he was literally the only one that came. So, I played a show to him alone, basically, which was interesting. Anyway, and then I was like, well, I really love hot sauce. I love hot sauce. And he did a really nice one that was like called White Skull, and it was garlic and it was super hot and it was white sauce. And I really wanted, like the Death and Gloria sauce to be the white one, but he was like, don't do a hot sauce that isn't red. No one will buy it. I'm like, are you serious? He was like, yeah, no one buys any hot. You need to. It's like it's like ketchup that's green. You wouldn't buy green ketchup, would you? You would be just like, I'm not eating that.
Yeah, it's definitely colour association. You're like,
yeah,
what?
yes. So I was just like, well, can we do a hot sauce? And he was like, yeah, let's do a hot sauce. And he does hot sauces for other bands as well. So he's in negotiation, I think, with a couple of big metal bands, but I can't name them. But he has already done a hot sauce for Snow Patrol.
Oh,
which is a reasonably large band.
yeah. Although I wouldn't have put Snow Patrol and Hot Sauce together. I don't know. It's just because they're, well, first of all, because it says snow in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
I think they did a charity one though. I think like Snow Patrol don't take money from it or whatever, and it's charity based or there's something along those lines. Anyway, it's basically a friend of mine called Dave who does hot sauce, and it's a small company. I think it's just him. I think it's just him. I don't know the ins and outs of his business dealings, I have to say, but it's a small business, and it's a British business, and teaming up. It's been good. It's good. There's a lot of interest, actually. When I say I've got an album out, people are like, I've got an album out. I say I've got my own hot sauce, and they're like, what? Oh my God! And I'm like, really? That's what floats your boat? All right. So the I don't know. The sauce itself is a barbecue sauce. It is not super, super hot, even though it's called, we use it as a weapon. It is a mid-range heat, I believe. And I've completely forgotten what else is in it. And there's a really nice spiel that I've forgotten about. I don't have it in front of me about what's in it. But it's on sale now, is what I can tell you. And there's a specific link that you have to use, which I'll give to you to put in your show notes.
Yes. Yeah, that would be brilliant. Yeah, I'll definitely add them.
Yeah, because then he knows that I sent you, basically. He knows I sent you! I think it's cheap. It's pretty cheap, actually. It's only like £6. I think that's pretty cheap for a bottle of awesome. Because I'm a big ramen eater, a huge ramen eater. I eat noodles and like ramen noodles until, my eyes pop out my head. I could just eat noodles I could just be in a bath of noodles. And you know what? Let's just get those Heinz beans and noodles. No, that doesn't work. That's too much pasta. That's just too much. Beans and noodles? No.
I mean, you could have rice noodles. Would that work?
No, I just think I like my beans with chips, and that's it.
Well, you can have beans and chips in a bath.
I could, but I think I'd rather have a ramen noodle bath. In fairness, I mean, I love ramen noodles. When I'm working, we're doing some festivals. Just like working, because that's my day job, is doing creative working for festivals and whatever. Yeah. And I'm the loon that brings chopsticks to a festival. I'm like, why would you not bring chopsticks? Unless you need to cut something, chopsticks do it all, and then you just slurp it out of the bowl. What do you need a fork and a spoon for? Well, I don't understand. So,
well, I mean, unfortunately, some of us are incapable of actually using chopstick. Well, I can, but to a point, yeah.
You can get those kids ones that, like they close for you, or they open up for you.
I'd probably be quite good at those ones because I remember going on a trip to Germany and we went to a Chinese restaurant, and I actually did have some of those ones. So, the children's ones, but, and I think I was quite successful, but I also was fairly young, so I can't remember if I actually did ask for a spoon in the end.
I also think that I used to work for a Chinese restaurant years ago, in high school, like in Northern Ireland. And the key is, like, British people will use chopsticks on a plate and keep the plate on the table. Yeah. And that's not how people with cultures that use chopsticks eat with chopsticks. You get a little rice bowl and you put a little bit of food in your bowl and you bring your food to your mouth and then you use the chopsticks at that sort of distance. That's where everyone always falls apart, I think. We use chopsticks at too big a distance, too large a distance for chopsticks.
That does make sense as to why it's only ever 1 grain of rice that I ever get on a chopstick.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it for sure.
I mean, I do need to lose some weight, but
Well, that's another thing. Like, a lot of Asian cultures are very skinny, aren't they? And is it because they eat a lot of fish and rice? Could be. But is it because chopsticks take a long time to get food into your mouth? So, the less you get through, the more your body knows it's full. That the 20-minute. Have you heard that 20-minute thing? I'm the same boat. I mean, I need to lose this lockdown. Lockdown load. That's what I'm calling it. There you go. So yeah, eat everything, including cereal and soup with chopsticks, and you'll soon be skinny.
Yeah, definitely. And I might actually give it a go and see how far I go.
Yeah, before you give up, it's just like, stuff it.
I'll just dip it in my mouth.
Just pour it in. Yeah. Pour it in, love. Oh, I just want to eat noodles now.
I know, I kind of do as well. And it was a bit like the other day I was at, we were at kind of a semi-posh do with my mum and myself and a few other people that I didn't know at all, but that doesn't ever stop me from opening my mouth and saying stuff. But
why not?
Exactly, that's who I am. And so my mum had Pimm's. And there was, obviously the fruit and stuff. And she's like, how do I eat this? And I said, you just drink all the liquid and then just tip it up and put it in your mouth. All these people are like, oh, really? That's not how we do it. This is a fork.
What? Do posh people even eat the fruit? I feel like posh people wouldn't even bother. Like the fruit would be below them by the time it gets to the bottom of the glass.
Yeah, probably.
But, you and I know that's where the good alcohol is.
Yes.
Like that, it's been absorbed by that point. So.
Exactly. And who's got time? Well, I mean, I did use you use the fork to scrape all the food into your mouth.
Yeah.
So, my mum's honestly says, I just can't take you anywhere. And I'm like, yeah, you can. You just have to mask,
you just mask you up. Yeah, that's kind of sounds like something my mom would say too.
But bless her, but I don't think she was really that embarrassed. She knows what I'm like, so it's all good.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Exactly. So, going back to Death Ingloria as well, because you've done a lot of things with Comic-Cons. Obviously, yes. That's, I assume, with the actual comic book version, but have you done, what involvement have you actually had with the Comic-Cons? I think it's probably the easier way to actually cover that.
Yeah. I play them. We play them as a band. So cool. We did 2 with the full band in July. We did Liverpool Anime and Gaming Con. And then at the end of July, we did London Anime and Gaming Con. So basically, there's a group called Anime League, and they do a whole heap of shows up and down the country, in pretty much all the cities. So we are in with them, and we just do shows for them at the moment. They are the ones who are booking us. I mean, Comic Cons aren't band things, they're not shows that a lot of bands will play. But well, they're not set up for bands. They don't really care about bands. I'll be honest. They want the voice actors. It's a different place, but I do the cons, and we do have a lot of fun, and we sell our comics and stuff like that at the cons, and it's really, it's kind of a luck shoot on whether you get an audience or not, because it really depends on what else is happening, what time of the day it is. We tend to get put on last, as a headline. But then most of the families have gone by that point, so I'm kind of like, maybe we should try and push to be a bit earlier in the day so we can get more families. But then the content, it's like I do a comic book and everything's animated, and I don't curse, and we don't use bad language, and as rock and heavy metal, we're not heavy metal, but as metal stuff go, it's quite poppy and it's accessible. But a lot of the context, the stuff that's in the comics and is a bit, it's not, is it PG? I'm not entirely sure. In the first album, we talk a lot about suicide. So that's obviously not a PG subject. And there's some animated blood and gore, but it's not horrendous, I don't think. It's not over the top, I don't think. And then this one, I think kids wouldn't like this comic because it's about a guy in an office. So, it's not really for kids, at all. So it's not really a family thing at all. But the fact that the music is kind of poppy and, all the rest, I think is more young people are more into that sort of side. So my first album is about a girl who's a scientist, and she purposely develops this miseries virus with the intention of destroying humanity.
Okay.
And then in this new album, it is a young man who accidentally destroys humanity. And I purposely chose a male character for the second album because, I chose both the characters purposely because I thought more women were going to be into my music.
Okay.
I thought more women would be into the whole concept, and they're not. I mean, there are women into it, obviously, but the audience is predominantly male. So I wrote a character specifically for that audience because they had supported me, through the first album. And, without them, there wouldn't be a second album. So I thought I'll write a character for my exact age group, which is apparently 25 to 35-year-old dudes. So... And, men of that age really love women telling them what they feel. So I thought it was just about time, to be honest. I just thought, it was about time a woman came on board and told them how they feel and how they see the world. That's what I thought. So that's why we had this character. But I also had somebody, I told you, like my civil service job.
Yep.
I also had a fella who this character is based on, who worked in that office, and he was a really nice fella, and he just wanted to come in and do his job. He didn't want to have to go to the bar with people after work. He didn't want to have to become a manager. He didn't want to, get involved in birthdays or, all the shenanigans that happen in offices. He just wanted to come in, do his job, get paid and leave. And he was good at his job. And so that's the character we have. He's not a terrible employee. He just doesn't want to do anything. He doesn't really want to get involved.
He didn't want to socialise with people, which I totally get.
Yeah. So that our character in the comic, KK, he is the same. He is based on that person. He just wants to come and do his job. And at the beginning of the story, he's a little bit enthusiastic. And as he goes through the story, he becomes less and less involved and more disconnected and more lonely, and so this comic goes between two storylines really. The first one is his daily what he's doing in his job, and then the second one is he's so bored that he's daydreaming, and that's where we get the songs from. The songs are the daydreams about parts of his life where he disconnected himself from everything else. So one is like disconnecting from his home society. The other one is just disconnecting from the zeitgeist at the time. He gets in one of the songs, he gets battered quite a lot by labels. He's a young white cis guy. He doesn't really understand why people are calling him cis or what that means. And people are using the term incel at him, and vegans are attacking him, and he's literally just like, what? I haven't done anything. What's going on? Yeah. And he feels he has to remove himself from the zeitgeist conversation, essentially, because he doesn't feel anyone will listen to him. So he just doesn't bother. He just silently fades into the background and just lives in the shadows going forward.
Oh, so in some ways it's actually quite sad, isn't it?
It is quite. I mean, that's the point. But the whole thing is about being lonely and not fitting into anything. Just not being part of any group or whatever. And especially in the civil service, there are hundreds of people that are in that group, thousands, I probably should say. The civil service is the biggest employer in the UK. Mm-hmm. And when you're a creative, it's often difficult to remember that not everyone is a creative, because we surround ourselves in these echo chambers of people that are like us. So we think everyone in the world is like us, but they're actually not. And there's a ton of people who are wandering through life, and people don't say hello to them or, interact with them in any way. And I think a lot of them work for the civil service.
Yeah.
As that sounds, but it's weird because I work in club events on one hand, and even when I was working in the civil service, I'd still work at club events at the weekend. So I always had creative people around me, even when I wasn't working with creative people day to day. And on one hand, you've got these beautiful women, and they're like, I can't walk down the street without 7 men speaking to me, and they don't like it. And rightfully, they shouldn't like it. I'm not saying they shouldn't. people can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Right? You're allowed to be offended by people constantly telling you to smile. That's allowed, right?
Yes.
On the other hand of that, you've got a whole bunch of people that no one has ever said hello to, or never said, you'd look better if you have a pretty smile or something. There's a whole rung of people who never get any attention at all. And we always focus on the people who get all the attention, and the people who get all the attention get more attention because they're getting attention.
Yeah, so that they don't want. Yeah.
Which they don't want.
But most of the time they do, yeah.
But I think most of the time people want some attention. They don't want all the attention because it gets weird and creepy. But I think like this particular story of Death by Admin is very much about the people who do not get anything, who are ignored or just not seen or anything. And it's really about what the inner workings of a person like that might be, and we just join this person through the last 5 days of their life and everybody else's life, as they just think about the things that made them want to disconnect from everyone around them. Basically, it sounds really sad, and it kind of is, but the comic has these two layers, and one of them is kind of tongue in cheek, and we do make fun of the fact it's an admin job and he's being asked to do ridiculous admin things, and then the real deep and meaningful stuff happens in the songs and the music videos. Yeah, but the music itself is not downbeat and sad. It's very upbeat and it's brilliant. It really is brilliant. And I'm not just saying that because you're a guest on the podcast. I'd probably just sit here and go, But no. And like I said at the very beginning as well, I really do love your voice as well. You've got such a brilliant voice. So thank you very much.
That's all right. No worries.
So my musical background, education, I guess, it comes from the dance floors of metal clubs. Yeah. So for years I don't really know band names or the names of songs or the albums or anything like that, because all the stuff I did was just dancing to stuff. Mm-hmm. So I just want to create music that people could dance to, and just like rock anthems or whatever. So that's what we aim to do. So the music's quite upbeat most of the time. Now we do have some ballads and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, they're just tunes, basically. Tunes! It's a tune! It's a banger! It's a banger!
Yeah, give it a whirl, everybody. You kind of cater for it. It's not, like you said, it's not quite metal, but it could be classed as metal if somebody likes that kind of music. But it also is rock. And it's there's all aspects of people that you can sort of cater to, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
it's really interesting when the press releases go out and then people look at the press releases and then they start writing about it themselves. And I don't think we've really been told. We haven't been described as the same genre by lots of people, which is, I think, good.
Yeah.
So they've called us melodic metal, which I don't think we are. Modern metal. Again, I think we also have like an 80s. I think we have we not purposely have an 80s twang to it. That's what I'm going to say. Like, I think it's just because somebody once said, like, you sound like the soundtrack to like a modern 80s themed sci-fi. Like someone who was using modern music, but it was set in the 80s. The sci-fi was like supposed to be an 80s context.
Yeah. I can kind of get what they're saying from that as well. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, but then you also want to kind of stick to sort of the I don't mean this as a derogative term, but like the geeky kind of side and stuff like that, because that's an interest of yours as well, isn't it? So
yeah, I think like when we take it, we could say that we're very J-rock, because J-rock, Japanese rock music, takes every genre going. I mean, when we're seeing the same thing with K-pop, which is very big. It's very big with BTS or whatever they're called.
Yeah,
And
I'm not familiar with those two. I pretty much like rock and metal. I don't listen to the radio very often. So, in some ways, I'm very narrow-minded. But yeah, I am open-minded to different songs. But yeah, if I'm going to buy something or listen to something, it's majority of the time it's rock or metal. So
yeah. So J-Rock takes a lot of genres and mashes them together. So I think that's what we're doing as well. I've got our bass player, Imran, is in a band called Press X, and they do like computer game music. Cool. And it's very J-Rock influenced, and they do a lot of genres into one thing as well. And then our drummer is in he's in loads of bands. But one of his bands is called Bolo Bolo, and I think it's like modern pop, indie pop kind of rock stuff.
Okay.
And I just think having like all those influences, that's why I'm kind of I do want the band to be involved, because those guys bring so much extra spice to what I do in the first place to make, to evolve the music forward. And yeah, I'm back on this conundrum where we haven't decided anything, have we? We got through this whole show, and now I'm like, I need the band. I need a band. Thing is, I can always work with them in the studio and just tour alone. I mean, that can happen.
Well, that's what I was actually just thinking myself. Why not just, if you found those two guys that, you work well with, why not record together? And as long as they don't mind the fact that you go out on the road on your own, kind of thing. I don't know how it all works in that side of things, but if they're happy to do it, and then at least you haven't got to sort of schedule anything again, have you?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll just work that out. Really.
How did you actually find them? The bass and the drummer?
The bass player I met at a Comic-Con.
Oh, okay.
So that was easy. And then the drummer's really young, actually. So he's 21. I think he's just turned 22, like 2 days ago. So happy birthday, Luke, if you're listening, which I'm sure you're not.
And why not if you're not?
Because he's young. He's got no time for this. He's got no time for it. So I have my manager actually runs a music charity. It works for a music charity in High Wycombe, and that's where I went to university. And we used to live together when I lived there, when I was at university. And she had a Battle of the Bands competition. Battle of the Bands! Yeah. And she needed like a stage manager, stage manager host, I guess. And I was just like, yeah, I'll do that. I want more stage time. I'll do that. So, so I did that hosting show, and Luke was in one of the bands. He was 17, I think, at the time, 17 or 18 at the time, and he won like drummer of the year, or drummer of the show, or best drummer of the year, whatever it was. And then that's how I found him, basically. And I was like, yeah, I should get him to play in my band, and it took 5 years to get to that. Or 3-4 years, whatever it was.
Well, when it's right, it's right. Things work out when it's supposed to.
Yeah, I think he did a degree, and then he's just finished his degree, and he's come out and he wants to work in freelance and stuff like that. So it kind of just worked well that he was looking for some work and I was looking for some help, and and it's worked out really well. And I think I'll probably get him to mix and master the next album, because I think we want to go for a more modern feel and really try and make it compete with what's being brought out now. Yeah. But I don't know. No decisions are made. We'll have a think.
Sadly, we've been talking for an hour and no decision has been made. I'm sorry. I feel like I've let you down a little bit now.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's my own fault. So folks can get the first album for free on the website if they want it at deathandgloria.com, and everything's we're on Bandcamp. And our website. Do you know what? I've said this on every interview I've done recently. I'm looking for a marketing manager. I need a marketing manager. I've got all this stuff and I don't know how to sell it. I'll be honest. I've got all this merch. I'm coming down with merch. I'm coming down with merch ideas. We can basically make whatever we want now, and I don't know how to sell it. So if anyone's out there who's a marketing manager for online shops and wants a job with a rock band, get in contact. If anyone out there's a booking agent, we have gigs. We're getting paid for gigs now, and I just want to give someone 10% to book my shows for me. It's not hard. I just need someone to do the job. So if you want a job and you're a marketing manager or a booking agent, hit me up. Hit me up, yo.
That sounds like a good opportunity, to be honest. So I'm just going to cough. Sorry.
I'll cough too. There you
Oh, synchronized coughing. This is how far we've come in this hour.
I know, right? Amazing.
Yeah. So as you said, obviously you got your deathingloria.com website, which I know you've just said. And I think I can see good things happening for you. So let's see. Let's hope. Just remember this tiny little show when you make it big.
I just always ask me to come back. I'm happy to chat. I mean, this is a good chat because we're not just dissecting the album over and over again. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I don't like doing that. You know, that's part of it. But I like the fact that this is random and we've gone off a wee bit. I think that's cool.
I mean, we had a conversation about beans.
Yeah, but I think I found like this particular show to be quite therapeutic because I've been having a bit of a midlife crisis today. I'll be honest. You know, I've just been like, what have I been doing with my life? And I met a woman today who is 72, and when she was at college, she went to like theater college or something, but she didn't want to be an actor, so she became a lighting tech.
Okay.
When she was at college, and then it was like a teaching college or something like that. So when she came out of college, she was offered a teaching job, and she taught for 50 years.
Wow.
She taught. And then today she was like, I kind of regret not being a lighting engineer. You know, I regret that I didn't go on tour and I didn't go and do all the things, and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm regretting life right now too. You know, why did I spend all that time doing all that crap when I could have been doing something better?
Yeah, but then I suppose it was the path that you needed to take just to get to where you are now, isn't it really?
That's what everyone, that's how you make it up to yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
The other thing was that I was really reckless as a kid, as a young person. I mean, I got drunk a lot. I partied a lot. I've partied a lot. I've partied across the world on tour buses and all sorts of stuff. So I think if I had been a musician, if I'd made it or made a go of it younger, I would have probably wasted myself or been done by now. You know, I don't think I didn't take anything seriously when I was a kid. And I'm only taking it seriously now. And now I don't drink or... You know, I don't do anything. I don't do anything. I have no fun at all at any time.
Well, to be fair, we have been out of practice for the last year and a half or however long it's been. So, you know, maybe just blame the pandemic. Everyone else is blaming the pandemic for other things. So
yeah, I was having a lot of fun during the pandemic. I'm just one of those weird ones that things... I'm sorry to say this, but things got better slightly for me because I got a studio space and I was drunk a lot at the beginning of the pandemic. I did drink because I was like, well, I don't have anywhere to go, so I'll just drink.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say just quickly, I know that, you know, I keep laughing at things that you're saying, and obviously because I'm finding them funny, but also because I absolutely relate to everything that I've laughed at. I'm thinking, yeah, that's me too. That's me too.
Yeah. So I started like doing live streams from the day of lockdown because I work for a community a community library in Crystal Palace. So the council closed the library and a charity opened it back up again. Mm-hmm. And on the day of lockdown, we started live streaming, and then we did about 300 live streams in that year. And we kind of stopped them all when the world opened up again. But we were live streaming every day, and sometimes we were live streaming 2 or 3 times a day. You know, community things. You're like, what's the community up to today? Yeah, let's keep everyone informed. Blah 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 blah. And I could just be so drunk when I was doing any of that because I wasn't on camera. I was just the tech behind it, and I got really drunk all the time. And then at Christmas, I was like, right. We're going to level up to we're going to level to 4.0. We're going to evolve ourselves to level 4.0 this year. So let's treat ourselves by not drinking anymore. So then we just quit. And life has been one dull ride ever since.
Oh.
You never turn off, because when you drink, you turn off when you drink alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you stop doing that, you don't turn off anymore. And I did 10 years ago. I did stop drinking for 5 years. But I was still like dating, going out and about and dating back then. So I had to learn how to go on dates with people sober, because I just never done that, you know. And that was hard. And I thought it would be a lot easier to quit again, because, you know, we're basically about to get married. I'm settled in. I'm settled in now. Yeah. Settled in. So I don't have to worry about any of that. But just like, I didn't think about the relaxing bit, you know. I just don't ever turn off.
Yeah, I suppose, you need to kind of find something as a different thing that you kind of need to find as the relaxing thing. You know, like I know typically people would say meditation, but it doesn't have to be that. You know, it could be just anything else that you enjoy or whatever that you find relaxing.
Sorry, I think meditation is actually the answer. I think it is. Because if you listen to any of the podcasts of productive people, I'm not saying your podcast is not of productive people.
Whatever, delete.
Whatever. But, you know, like Tim Ferriss is one that, I mean, he interviews the cream of the crop, basically, of humanity, you know, and all of them are like, what is the one, he always asks, what's the tip you would give to people? And all of them are like meditation. It's free. You could do it. There's just endless benefit for something that is super cheap. There's no money, no effort. Literally sit there and don't think of anything for 10 minutes. I can't do it. I mean, I've tried, but I find it very, very difficult. I just can't turn off. I cannot turn off.
Because I've tried doing it before as well, and it's kind of like I feel a bit self-conscious as well. Like almost like somebody might walk in and think like, what are you doing?
Yeah, this is why I can't do yoga. Because I went to a Pilates class a while ago, right? And I'm sitting there and she's like, look at your toes. Give your toes some love. Your toes are fine. They deserve to be loved, and so do you. And I'm fucking crying. Sorry for cursing.
That's okay, you carry on.
I am crying. I'm literally bawling my eyes out because my feet are too fat. And I don't deserve any love because my feet are like two little hams on the end of a large sausage sticks. And I'm like, what? And the woman's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing, just leave me alone. Oh. I can't do yoga because I'm like, even at home, I'm like, I'm a big fat cow. Why am I doing yoga? What is going on? I look so bad. I can't bend over. What? This skinny wench. You sit and watch these girls they're lovely. I mean, Yoga with Adrienne is the one I watch, and she's really cool. But I'm like, you're one skinny little girl, and you can bend over sideways, and I can't. There's too much of me in the way to touch my toes. I mean,
it's like, if you know, give it a few more years, because I think we're probably about the same age. Because I'm 38, so I don't know how old you are, but
we'll say that. Why don't we say that? Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool. But you know, obviously, give it quite a few more years, and we'll be able to bend over, and then something else will be able to touch our toes.
God, you're just making it worse. I'll be honest. I'm so old.
No, not at all. We've just got to laugh about these things, I think, is the most important thing.
Yeah, probably. But I think I should try not to be too harsh about stuff that you're doing on your own. Why are we judging ourselves for being crap at sitting? Like, what are people going to think of us if we're sat meditating alone in a room or doing yoga alone in a room, you know?
Yeah.
And I get angry at myself and I just give up doing yoga because I feel I'm too fat to do yoga. Like, what is wrong with this brain? Like, you know, and it's not society. It's not. It's me. It's me. It's the stuff inside my head. It makes no sense. And, you know, when I've recently thought when I've been dealing with these younger fellas, because my bass player's 30 and my drummer's 22. And, you know, the stuff that they just say, like my drummer is in the music industry, but he doesn't want to work long hours, and I'm just sitting going, who could I have told when I was 22 that I do not want to work long hours in the music industry? You know what I mean? Like, I work 12-hour days on my own, easily. I don't care about going out. I have friends. I don't see them, but I have them. They're around somewhere. They live I don't know where they live anymore, but they're about. And I just, I wish I had their bowls, essentially. If I had my drive and their bowls, then it would be great. I'd just be like, I'm doing this. That's what I'm doing. Everyone else get out of my way. Maybe I'm doing that anyway. I probably do that anyway. I feel I'm probably like doing that.
I think you're doing just fine if it helps. So,
It doesn't. But thank you. Thank you for saying that, but it does not help at all.
Well, with regards to things that you can do relaxing, sorry if my phone interrupts with the microphone here. It's more saying that for the listeners rather than yourself, because you might not hear it anyway. But I don't know if you've got an iPhone or whatever, but I use this app called Happy Color, and it's spelt color without the American way rather than our way. But basically it's like you've got all these, it's almost like color by numbers, but it's electronic. And I use that quite often to kind of relax and just lose myself. Cause you're sort of like creating this picture and you're looking for all of the number ones, all of the number two, and so forth, obviously. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't
you color in on the app.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, they've got all different themes and whatnot as well. So.
Well, that's a great segue. And I'll tell you why, because we do a colouring book as part of it. So if you go onto our Bandcamp page, which is deathandgloria.bandcamp.whatever, bandcamp.com or I don't even know what it is. I was saying that with such confidence and then I just bailed on halfway through that sentence. Deathandgloria.com, you can also get it. And you get the physical bundle for £25. You get the comic book and you also get the colouring book, which is twice as many pages as the comic is because we made it bigger. And you also get the ID card. So I don't want to go into a whole big sales thing right here because I want to talk about the colouring book, but I will. The ID card has a QR code on it, and that's how you get onto the members-only website. And then there's that's where you download your music from. But you'll also get special features like the live album launch video, and then the full animated comic will only be available on that. And it comes with a very nicely printed lanyard, though. But anyway, we have this comic book, so maybe I should just get some colouring pens and just colour my own colouring book. Is that what you're telling me? Like I should just do that?
Well, I mean, they do say that colouring in can be quite therapeutic. So instead of, sitting there doing yoga or, well, not sitting there because obviously with yoga you need to move, but or meditating or whatever, that might be your form of meditation to just lose yourself in colouring. I mean,
see, my practical brain is just going, that is time that you could be learning more guitar. That's really it. You could be doing more on guitar. But maybe I just don't play guitar enough anymore. I've been caught up in all this animation and trying to earn money as a freelancer and this pandemic, and I've barely touched the guitar. So I think guitar playing is my colour, is my meditation. Because I remember maybe I was just happier when I was playing guitar more. Anyway, I should do that. I should do that.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's just, even if it's just an hour a day or a couple hours a week or whatever, that you just sit there and you do one of those two things, then, but colouring in your own book, I mean, that's got to be therapeutic, because then, you can show people, you can put it on the fridge and you can go, I did this.
There's no way, if I put it on the fridge, no one will see it. I mean, that doesn't work. But I could put it on Instagram and then have other people colour in, because we've sold all the pre-sale album stuff. Got sent out with the colouring book. So there's people with colouring books out there in the ether. So I could just have them all put stuff on Instagram, really, couldn't I?
You absolutely could. Yeah, you could make it into like a little competition type thing, but like a fun one rather than a competitive one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably do that. That sounds like something I could definitely do. And then, that's fine.
Yeah. It's getting your name out there as well at the same time. So you kind of use it, for promotional point of view as well.
Yeah. I don't put enough stuff out. You'd think with all the stuff I have available to put out that I would put out more stuff, but I actually am terrible at posting. Oh, I'm just awful at it. I just hate it. I just don't hate it. It's so weird because I'm actually employed by other people to do their social media for them. But it's easier when it's someone else's stuff because they give you the content and then you put it out, and that's easy. But when you're creating your own content, it's difficult. And I was doing live streaming for the band like 3 times a week. And I stopped live streaming just to get the album out and all of that, and take August off. And I suddenly feel like I don't put out any content at all because I have stopped live streaming. But we're going to start live streaming again in September, probably mid-September, and then start doing original gigs, music gigs, because I can do those alone. They are very easy to do alone. It's just me and my guitar, and I'll make some graphics, and I'll be inside my own comic books and stuff on Twitch. And I'll probably do it on Bandcamp as well this time, and probably bits on Facebook, just because most of my audience lives on Facebook.
Yeah.
But then I feel like I'm moving forward because I'm responsible for my own music. When you're live streaming, and I can gig every week. Because it's my live stream. I can do what I want, and I'll be gigging every week.
Exactly. And I see also with some people's live streams as well that you've got like a donation part as well. So you could, they say, oh, buy me a gin and tonic or whatever, So maybe you could do that.
So like Twitch has taken, there's money, you get money from the Performing Rights Society when you play gigs. Like you can report to them that you've done shows and what you've played, and then they give you a little bit of money. And normally it's about £100 a year I would get from the shows I do. It's not a lot, but it's something.
Yeah.
And then, you get a little bit of money from YouTube, and you get a little bit of money from Facebook and all this kind of stuff. So it's all good. It all comes in. And Twitch, obviously the PRS money didn't happen in the last year because nobody was playing any gigs, but Twitch has overtaken the money I received from PRS. So I probably was getting like £160 a year from Twitch when I was live streaming all the time. Mm-hmm. So there's money to be had there even without donations and whatnot. People just subscribing and whatnot. Yeah. And ad revenue. So there's a little bit can be happen from there, and I just need to put more time and effort into that because that I can control. I can control that completely.
Well, like you said, we need to get you a marketing person, basically, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So
marketing.
Yeah. Got people screaming outside now as well. Fantastic. So all these different noises.
Yeah. So I should just say I don't have a lot of money to pay a marketing manager, but I will put commission is definitely, I will pay them something to get started, but it's commission. We'll do we'll do money and commission for a marketing person.
Well, it's also experience as well. So, it could be an intern or whatever we call them.
Young people are far better at a lot of the stuff than older people because I've interviewed a ton of people over the last year and a half, and the young'uns know a lot more than the olders about what's going on. So
yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, my nieces know a hell of a lot more than I do. So, and they're about 18 years younger than me. So, there we go. But then they grew up with it, so it's all good. Yeah, we're probably brainier in other ways, maybe.
Well, the life experience is like I've got 10 years between me and my partner. And he's very intelligent. He's super intelligent. Mm-hmm. He's crazy intelligent, very high IQ. But that 10 years of experience really does, there is a gap there, and it's got something, experience is worth it because life is hard and life is suffering if you're a Buddhist. or if you're any kind of awake animal, I think. And it's just hard, and it gets harder the older you get.
Well, I think in that case, on that note, this is a good place to end this week's episode. On a downer. But Galina, before we wrap up, what is your social media information so people can go across and find you and whatnot?
The easiest way to find everything is to go to deathandgloria.com, and then at the top of that website, everything is linked. So whatever your favorite channel is, we're probably on it.
Yep.
Unless it's Pinterest, because, you know,
Who's on that?
Who's on that?
Yeah.
I'm on LinkedIn, but I have my professional page if you want to employ me to do things, and I do everything. I do a little bit of everything. If I can make money doing a thing, I'll do the thing. So, but I'm basically working in animation, audio, and videography and stuff like that now. But I do a little bit of everything.
Oh, brilliant. Well,
and but I really want to come and play people's houses. So if you want a house concert with either myself or the whole band, then email us at info@deathandgloria.com. We'll come and play your back garden or your living room or whatever.
That sounds like a plan. You know, if we put the speakers up right loud as well, we can piss the neighbours off.
Yeah. The other thing I can do is like put everybody on headphones, so I'll have a silent disco where the loudest thing would be my voice if it was just me coming. So it's all to play for. It's all to play for.
Yep.
Just come and check us out, deathandglory.com.
Yes, definitely. I recommend as well. So, I was going to ask before, you know, as a final track, would it be okay for us to play Battle Stations at the end of this episode?
Of course. You can just go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really like that track. I mean, I like all of them, but that one I really, really like. So,
oh, thank you. Yeah, it's the first single that we released. Battle Stations is actually about Northern Ireland. It's about trying to come to terms with what I grew up in at the time. And then the London riots happened, and that's when I wrote the song, because I was a little bit worried that it would be easy for us for Northern Ireland to happen again in London or in this area. So that's where all that came from. So there you go.
Well, there you go. Deep and meaningful stuff. So, and you know, really worth a listen. So I know I keep saying that, but I truly mean it. So in that case then, I think that we've been talking enough Codswallop this week. I have been Gemma.
And I'm Galina Wren from band Death and Gloria.
Yeah! Rock and roll!
Rock and roll! Amazing.
Stone.